Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. Beautiful Hoosier music in the background. And that means that it's time for Gordy Kasper. Fun with Gordy! Gordy Kasper, how you doing, big guy?
Good morning. What a great day to watch a basketball movie.
Yeah. Did you like that music I got for you? The intro music?
I always enjoy the Hoosiers music, Dave. Thank you so much.
Oh, I do that for you because you're Fun with Gordy.
Every day of my life. I do have some troubling news for you, though, boys.
What's that?
And, Matt, you'll probably appreciate this a little more. I had the choice between studying all these rule changes you wanted me to look at or watching Fletch.
So what did you do?
Well, I know all the lines, let's put it that way, to the movie.
That's Chevy Chase, right, Fletch?
Yeah.
You know, poor Chevy didn't look very good the last time I saw him. Is he all right?
I'm just worried about Fletch. I focus on that.
Yeah,
that's good.
If you chose the movie, you made the right choice.
You like all those classic movies. So what do you think, Gordy, about all these changes? They're turning women's basketball. They're going to quarters, getting away from the halves. They're changing the foul procedure. In men's basketball, they're changing the shot clock and all that stuff. What are some of your thoughts on this as a high school coach, and what do you see maybe in the future that might happen with high school because of these changes?
Well, I love the quarter changes with the girls. I think that's going to benefit them in terms of speed of play and understanding where we're at with the game. But with the boys thing, one of the things that stood out with me was they're going to call the faking fouls was one of their points of emphasis when they go to the monitor at the end. I don't see them pulling that out of the card of the deck when the game's on the line. But you know what I do like is moving that restricted arc from 3 to 4 feet. And Dave, I know you were saying that it all goes back to the guys who paint the floors. But you know, if they want to open up the game more while they're painting the floor, why don't they just widen the lane like the European style?
Right. Yeah, well, you that's why we have fun with Gordy, so we find this stuff out. Do you think they'll ever do any of this stuff in high school? With the arc and the widening of the lane and shot clock?
Well, I'll tell you what I do think. We did those basketball games for a few years back, and what did I say almost every Friday? I'd love to see that arc in high school because it takes all the pressure off the referee on the block charge call. All he's got to do is check the feet, and that helps him with 75% of the decision on that call. And then it also helps with safety. You know, they had a stat online last night when I actually was doing the homework that the block charge call it dropped by almost 2%, or almost by 2 calls per game. So that should speed it up. But the rest of it seemed like the same things I've heard since 1994, where they talked about pace of play and physicality in the post and allowing the movement without the ball. Do you remember, Dave and Matt, at the beginning of last season for boys NCAA, remember when they called every foul and someone cut across the lane and Jay Billis was going nuts? So then I thought, well, I wonder, just to refresh my memory, what the final score was. And when Duke beat Wisconsin in the championship, the score was in the 60s. Yep. 68-63. So there was no increased scoring or increased movement. But so I guess at the end of the whole thing, I'll believe it when I see it, no matter what they put down on the paper.
Well, I think some of the pace of play stuff, though, could help. You know, when you don't have, when they're letting a timeout within 30 seconds of the TV timeout, count as the media timeout there and things like that. I think, maybe cutting out the 5-second closely guarded rule, those kind of things where, I do think the flow of the game can keep up a little bit more.
But I don't believe that they're going to, if you're coming out of the TV timeout and Mike Krzyzewski is getting on one of his players, I don't see that referee putting the ball down on the floor and start counting 5 on out of bounds underneath. Right. Or even worse was the technical they said they'd call.
I understand that, but I mean, just from a flow standpoint where, because how many times would you see, a coach calls a timeout, 5 seconds before the TV timeout was supposed to hit, then they come back and play for 40 seconds and then you got another timeout and,
Yeah.
And, so I think just from a flow standpoint, though, because it's tough to keep a rhythm going when you've got all those breaks in there.
Well, and you're right. I agree with those points.
Yeah.
An experimental rule they're going to do in some postseason tournaments. Instead of 5 personal fouls, a guy can pick up 6. That'll be everything but the big one. What do you think about that, adding an extra foul? I mean, it's kind of a game where sometimes where a key player gets 2 fouls in the first quarter and you don't see him the rest of the half.
Right. It's the only sport where you eliminate your best player.
Mm-hmm.
Although the close second to that could be when you intentionally walk the best hitter on a baseball team. However, you're putting yourself at risk by putting him on base with the walk. So
right. Well, that's the other team's decision to do that too, as opposed to basketball, where
Yep.
So you like 6 fouls? You think that'd be all right?
What's that?
You like the 6th foul instead of just 5? Adding that 6th foul?
I think it'd be. I think it's just something to look at, Dave. I don't know. We're going to watch the postseason and find out. The preseason NIT. I mean,
and we were talking about the restricted arc a minute ago. Beyond that, do you think they'll ever do anything to either protect the offensive players more or just give them more the benefit of the doubt? Because it always seems like more often than not that call goes to the defender when, sometimes they even just slide up under them while they're in the air. And I know they're not supposed to call that, but it seems like more often than not that call goes to the defender.
Well, don't you think that they work in hand with the Coaches Association, who work along with the athletic directors and presidents? So once the coaches all decide they want to do it, it'll change. But the coaches are so controlling. I mean, they want to be as much of a football coach as they can. I was talking to Mike Hearn, the old Belvedere football coach, years ago, and he said one of the things that drove him crazy with basketball is you're not in charge of every play.
Yeah.
The kids just run and make plays on reads, and in football, even with no huddle, you still get to call the play from the side. So we'll see. We'll see. As soon as they decide they want to open up and run more, they will. But when you've got final scores in the 60s, that's a problem.
How much control do you want as a basketball coach? And I know at a younger level you probably need more control, as opposed to the pros. But, you kind of compare the college game and the pros, in college, we talked about the timeouts. They're always calling timeouts to run plays. They're making guys bring the ball out, run their sets and all that. And I know they're running sets in the NBA, but it seems like the coaches step back a lot more during the game, maybe call a couple timeouts at the end of a quarter and maybe you run a specific set that they draw up, but it seems like there's a lot more just kind of natural flow to the game in the NBA.
Well, one of the things I heard from a local coach years ago was he used to run the motion offense like Bobby Knight, just read and cut and move on your own. And he said one of the things he found was every time they'd go to the film and he'd say, okay, David, you went the wrong way on this cut, they had an excuse. They had a reason. And he said that's why he eliminated that, and he went to calling every set, because on the sets, you have to cut, to the ring or wherever, and then only occasionally can you read and make your own choice. And he said that was one of the reasons why he went to controlling it more, is so that it eliminated people with their own agendas at this lower level.
You look at the basketball, high school, college, pro, they all have different three-point lines. They all have different foul rules. Some play halves, some play quarters. Would it be ever nice if we could just have basketball have the same rules, or is that not going to work because of the diversity in players that you have on the team?
I don't know, Dave. I mean, if that's why you like or don't like basketball, then I think you got a bigger problem than that. The fact that there's change every day. I didn't think it was that big of a factor to switch from 5 to 6 fouls. You just add one more. Or the only thing I'd really like to see in high school for safety and to help the referees is that arc underneath.
Yeah.
I don't like the elimination of the 5-second rule in college. I like rewarding good defense, because that means you're moving your feet. You're actually not fouling him. You're not grabbing him. You're staying in front, and your teammates are playing good team defense. So it's hard for the ball handler to get rid of the basketball. So I'm not a fan of that. But But we'll see how it plays out.
You know, one that it's been talked about for years at the high school level, but it seems like it's getting more momentum over the last few years. Do you think that we'll get to a point, some point, where they do a shot clock in high school?
The thing that I think with Matt, with the shot clock is who's going to run it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're having enough trouble getting people to run the book and to run the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are in the stands or, on Facebook or watching the game or whatever, and they don't realize that poor guy running the book, he's getting chewed out once a game, if not more,
right,
by one person or another. And the clock guy's always on edge. So now you need to get another clock guy, and then you need to get another clock guy, not for the varsity, but for varsity, for the sophomores, and for your Saturday morning freshman game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the
and
cost
then you need
too.
to buy a clock.
Yeah,
right.
So I don't know, as much as it's what's going on with the IHSA and how we ended up in Peoria again. Unless there's some kind of conspiracy, I don't see a clock anytime soon.
Plus, you put more responsibility on the official with a shot clock.
Right.
Yeah. Thing that we've always said we wanted to talk about, and then we never do. We always cut it off. Is that Jefferson team that went downstate?
Sure.
What was it about that team?
Talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Winters, I always pick on him in a good way, that he was Mr. Duct Tape that year.
Yeah.
Because it was not a tremendous amount of X and O's, but we had, with talent comes personality, no matter what sport it is. And we had a lot of talent. Eppinger was our best player by far. I think the one thing that I did that year to really contribute as an assistant was we came up with the Rob touch rule. Mm-hmm. And what that meant was every trip down the floor, Rob's got to touch it. He doesn't have to shoot it, but he's got to touch it, and that would free up everyone else. We had Fisher and Pickens, a great speed and shooting at the guards, and then we had the big kid Pat Nelson inside, who ended up going up to Green Bay and playing. And when you've got 6'10", 6'8", and then we had a slew of 6'6", 6'7", it was a very special group, very talented group.
That team seems to get lost in the shuffle a lot. When you hear people talk about great teams from the area, you always hear the Guilford team, a lot of the Boylan teams, obviously the West teams going back, and then obviously the Auburn teams here of recent.
Right.
Why do you think that team just kind of seems to get lost in the shuffle sometimes?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I can't explain that, but I know the talent that squad had matches up or is better than most of the teams that have gone down lately. I think that we had just so much from top to bottom. Our guards could play with anyone, and almost, it's hard to match up with our front line. I know Guilford had Rucker at the guard, and he was just such a winner, and Fletcher inside, and Big Ben in the post. But that team that Coach Winters was the head coach of, and I was the assistant, that Jefferson team can match up with any of them.
We're going to have to take a break here in a little bit, but I want to know how the girls' dancing career is going, especially since they got a dad that would probably had a dancing career when he was younger. How's that going for the girls?
It's going great. Thank you for asking. They all three qualified for nationals, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of being a dad of three dancers is when I see other dads out and about, and they come up and they say, my son scored 4 touchdowns and kicked 2 field goals. And everybody knows what that means. And or my son went 4 for 4 with 2 home runs, and everybody knows what that means. And Dave and Matt, I'll walk up and say, well, the girls knocked out 4 platinums and 2 high goals.
And you get to travel with the girls too, don't you? You go everywhere with them.
Well, yeah, they're my kids. I support them, and my wife does a great job of keeping everything in line. Remember, I'm just a juice box guy. I make sure everybody's got a juice box and everybody's has treats, and then I also come in and once in a while I'll save the day.
And
I'll make sure everybody finds a way to smile.
And you married good, didn't you? That's what saved you, buddy.
I tell you what, I've made a lot of bad choices. One might be being on this radio show, but my God, I sure did marry the right girl.
Happy anniversary, by the way. Wasn't that this week?
15 years. Thank you. Yep, it was great.
She's a saint.
Yes, she is. And she knows the words to Hoosiers.
That's good.
I don't know if that's by choice for her, but
Probably not.
Before I let you go, we got to take a break. One Hoosiers quote, and then we're going to have to go, Gordy. Can you give me one?
Well, I tell you what, my brother bought a dog, and he named it Chester.
There we go. I love it.
That's when the grandma grabs the rabbit, and she says, "Say hello to Chester."
Say goodbye to Chester. Gordy Kasper, thank you. Fun with Gordy. We'll see you.
Have a good one, boys.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a time out. Back with more of the Stateline Sports Hour. We had fun with Gordy here on 1440 WROK.